Hey y'all, Casey here, along with my wonderful boyfriend, Brandon Graham.
Hello, wonderful.
Yes, it's true. And we wanted to shoot a little life update video to let y'all know what we've been up to for the past many months. Like, oh wow, I think we've been here for like 9 months now.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Okay, yeah, because I think your last video you posted was basically us visiting Vegas or back in Portland, kind of plotting to come to Vegas, and now we've just been here and kind of in the weeds of life in Vegas.
But the last video of us together, it was like a comics review. I was just actually watching it before we filmed this one, just to kind of see like where were we at, and yeah, we were back in Portland. It was a while ago, but we're no longer in Portland. Obviously, as I've mentioned in multiple videos, we live in Vegas. We live in Las Vegas now, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a very different world from Portland, and it's been nice. I feel like you've especially been enjoying it.
Yeah, it's been really wonderful. I love it here.
Thank you when you win.
Oh no. I love it here. I feel super lucky that we've built like a little community here that I'm very thankful for and proud of. Some really amazing humans. And we actually, there's no videos on there, it's not really set up or anything yet, but it does exist. I have created a YouTube channel for our house.
Right.
We'll start having videos there soon. You've actually recorded one already with one of our good friends, Janie Blade, who was visiting.
Yeah. So we should qualify, we moved out to this suburban neighborhood that I always describe as like, our house feels like the set around a toy train, or like the village in the British TV show The Prisoner. It's like this very kind of suburb outside of Vegas, like very pretty but like empty neighborhood, and we live in this giant house. I have a studio room, and we have 2 different bedrooms, I guess. The room we're in now, we're called the Royal Salon, and with this gold couch.
Yes.
And we live in this gigantic house with, currently there's 4 other people here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been fun and weird, and I've been adjusting to a very different life.
Yeah, definitely different. Much more. We were actually saying, we were over at the pool today, and we were like saying how this is a much chiller life, more relaxed overall. You stay busy, and we'll get into what you're doing with that in a second. But it's mostly like pretty chill. And just to elaborate on, I really like your analogy with the prisoner. I think that's such an apropos thing, especially because we're in the middle of the desert, like outside of the Vegas Valley, like there's like almost nothing for many, many miles. But then here in our weird little desert valley, they recreated essentially like an Italian town, is what this is.
Yeah. I used to joke when we first moved here that it was like they're making fun of Italian people, but it's actually Italian people here.
Yeah, there are actually like, born in Italy, Italian people who live here. We hear them speaking Italian all the time, and there's this wonderful little neighborhood market that we go to. It's an Italian market, and we just get like coffee and sandwiches and donuts there and stuff. And it's just a little walk away, and it's so cute, and I love it so much. And like I alluded to, we don't have a pool in our yard, which is awesome because we don't have to take care of it. But there's a pool literally across the street, so we were able to just stroll on over there. Like one of our roommates just came in this morning. He was like, "Want to go swimming?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's go swimming."
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, I think it's worth mentioning that the shift from, I know you've made videos about kind of you're leaving Portland and everything, but where Portland felt like this like kind of political hotspot, Vegas feels like this kind of bubble that is not, where you can kind of choose to not engage with the craziness of what's going on in the rest of America oftentimes.
Mm-hmm. It's a nice, at least for me, mental health wise, it's a nice reprieve from not being able to ever take a break. It seemed like before, but now we can take a break and engage with stuff that we choose to, I guess.
Yeah, like I don't think it's a selfish thing, but I do think at certain points it's important to be able to step back and focus on your life, and we've really been having a good chance to just like, like I've been I've been working harder than I probably ever have before, and I feel like that was harder to do in environments where you're like putting out fires and you're dealing with all this drama going on, and and especially with the way social media is now, where it's just like constantly get bombarded with that the world's gonna explode tomorrow, and it's nice to, as much as you can, just push that aside and sit around and read books on poetry and take a bath.
Yeah. And yeah, so Portland stuff is still pretty raw for me. It's still difficult to connect with things that remind me of my old life, but in therapy, trying to get better with that. And then here, oh shoot, you just said something that I wanted to say about here. Our awesome group of people. No, I mean that's good, but
So just kind of focusing on our own.
Oh, you mentioned the poems. I wanted to talk about our awesome bookstores.
Oh yeah, that's been a big. I feel like during the pandemic we did a lot of just like grocery stores was our social life. In a lot of ways, like Vegas is such a like party town on the surface, but we're being very mellow for the most part here. So we just started venturing out, like we were just really kind of shut-ins in a lot of ways our first couple months here. We've just started venturing out the last couple weeks really to checking out a bunch of bookstores here, and surprisingly Vegas has like really good spots.
Yeah, and there's one. We're in like the south of town, and there's a bookstore in our portion of town called the Copper Cat, which is really awesome. That's the one we found just very recently. That was, it was super, like, I did not expect it to be nearly as good as it is.
Yeah, it seems like it's just run by a woman who's just like, it was great to go into this store and really like you could just look around and know that what her taste was. She had a surprisingly good selection of things that like I felt like the woman who curates the store has impeccable taste. She had a ton of Frank Herbert stuff everywhere. She was really big on Nabokov. She had it was put together in a really, I think shell-shocked from Portland in a lot of ways, honestly. Like it was put together in a way that was just, it wasn't insulting to anyone's intelligence. Like I think you noticed that the queer section of the bookstore was like there with the Bible stuff, where it's just like, we're adults, you can do this,
Yeah, they had stuff for everybody, and that's, I think, a lot of what I love about Vegas is that you can actually be whoever you are, like, and people generally don't hassle you unless they're like weird tourists or assholes.
Yeah, no, I had a moment a while back when I was at a grocery store and I saw someone who kind of just looked like they were like in there like going to a strip club, work clothes, and I had the thought, it's like, oh, that's a crazy outfit to be at the grocery store with. And then I remembered that the people that I was there with were in like, I think we were there with a friend that was in just like animal pajamas.
That sounds right.
And and you're dressed in your Burning Man clothes.
Maybe with cat ears on or something.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's such a weird mix here of both. People are here to have fun, and people are here because this is like, there isn't a lot of reason to be in Vegas if you're trying to live a very L7 square life, and so. I often interact with people. I'll go to like a 7-Eleven and I'll be like, well, why is that person in Vegas? What crime are they running from?
Hey, Kate,
Come on.
That was one of our wonderful, amazing friends and roommates. She was checking in on us, I think.
Yeah, should we talk about what we got at that bookstore?
Okay, yeah. So we got a bunch. We've gotten a bunch of books. Wait, sorry. Before I get away from that one, before we talk about what we actually got there, I wanted to mention the other bookstore. So the Copper Cat is in our part of town.
Yeah.
Is this okay, you think?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other bookstore that's more towards the northern part of town is called the Writer's Block. And it's a totally different vibe and everything, but it's really, really wonderful in its own right. As you walk in, there's a little cafe at the front, and then it says Writer's Block Bookstore and Fake Bird Sanctuary, and so it's like they've got fake birds throughout the entire place, and
yeah, and they have very, very weird, interesting stuff there. Like I think they have Hieronymus Bosch action figures that they've placed around the place.
Yeah, they do.
Which was a weird thing I didn't know existed.
Same.
Yeah, I feel like that's the bookstore I go to for, like I got when we went there last time, I think I got a book of short stories by the guy that did the science fiction movie, what's the woman with the kind of looping time? Arrival.
Oh.
The excellent Arrival movie is based off one of this guy's short stories, so I got a book of his short stories there. And it seems perfect for that. They have like, you know, these kind of new editions of like all the like, you know, Frank Herbert books, and they have a good poetry section and things like that. Yeah, I've been on a poetry kick lately.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot of poetry.
Yeah, and that one's a cool. The nicest thing about that one is it doesn't feel like a Las Vegas place at all. It just feels like it's this entire block that is just like bookstore, and it's just it really does feel like a, you know, like being in a desert and seeing this sanctuary, this like you know, what's the word when you, like when you see a mirage in a Arabian Nights thing.
An oasis.
An oasis. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, so it's fantastic. And I guess the third major, and we also I should mention our kind of, I'll say half bookstore is we go to Barnes and Noble sometimes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
just look at their manga section because they have this cartoonishly big manga section.
It's like insanely good. Like it's better, I think, than almost any actual Japanese bookstore that I've been to. Like I think it's better than at least the ones in Portland.
Oh, certainly better than the Kinokuniya one.
Yes, in Portland, yeah.
Yeah, they have a big selection of stuff. I got it's one of the ones I didn't grab here, but I got Witches.
Oh yeah.
Which is fantastic.
That looks really pretty.
Just a series of manga short stories by the guy to Children of the Sea about different witches. Yeah, and one of the reasons we went to that one was to get a friend of ours left a copy of the first Chainsaw Man here.
Oh yeah.
And so we went around town kind of looking for the rest of them, and I got book 6 and then ordered the rest of them from the comic store we go to, which is Alternate Reality, which is like a surprisingly good comic store.
Yeah.
It is like every time I go there, I find things that I did not expect to find, and it's like turned me on to so much new. Should we go through some of that?
Sure, we can go through some of that stuff.
Yeah, and one of my big finds of that one was this Rio book.
Oh, I forgot you got that there. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been loving that one.
Yeah, Doug Wildey, who's the creator of Johnny Quest, and you know I like westerns, but I'm not particularly like a western guy. But this one, just the story structure, both this and Chainsaw Man, actually, I felt like I was kind of in a lull of not being excited by new comics I hadn't seen before, and I was just going back and reading a lot of old Paul Pope comics or whatever. But Rio is like, it's 3 short stories, and it reminded me of reading old like early Conan magazines, because they're just really concrete, solid stories. And I started writing down for my science fiction comics like ideas for how they structure the story. And another thing I found there was the Best of Little Abner. I've been really interested in El Cap because he's bizarre, bold, horrible, and
terrible person.
Yeah, by all accounts, a terrible person. He's like, later in life, he drove his closest competitor to suicide, and then in the intro of this book that was, you know, decades after his competitor, who was originally his boss, committed suicide, he just refers to him as like a little fat man that draws women like he's never seen one in real life. Like does not come off as a pleasant human being in anything you read about him. He like tried to casting couch Goldie Hawn at the beginning of her career, but he's weirdly incredibly talented, and the comic strips are really good.
Yeah, you've been like finding gems in there and stuff.
Yeah, there's one story in this though where his kind of negative side puts out. There's a thing where it's like these Ozarks, you know, kind of Beverly Hillbillies style characters. And Lil Abner at one point falls into a mine and eats these mushrooms that make him incredibly fat. And he comes out, and his wife is mourning him and cannot understand why his kid's like this fat guy. And then he loses the weight, and he's like so depressed by her not loving him anymore and not recognizing him. He also has amnesia because the fat there's diagrams of like fat pressing into his brain and making it so he can't remember things. So he gets so depressed that the woman he loves doesn't love him anymore that he stops eating and goes back to his normal self. And then they're like, oh, it was you all along, never mind. And they just move on with the story like it wasn't like horrible for everyone involved. And so that's weird, but the rest of it has been pretty fun as far as like strip comics. And it's beautifully drawn. I don't know how much is El Cap because I know he worked with multiple assistants, one of which was Frank Frazetta.
Yeah.
But so it's one of those things that since I did a big Instagram deep dive on reading all the Tintin books through, and it was so inspiring, and I got really into Hergé's life and everything. But it was also took up so much of my life that I'm almost like I have this and I have Asterix and a bunch of other things I'm really excited by. But I'm always just like, I don't know if I have enough hours in a day to create my own work and also be researching tons of things. But hopefully I'll get to it. I'm kind of slowly researching.
Yeah. That's that.
And I got a bunch of like Quarterbin comics. I got a Terry Moore Echo, which is fun to read. I got this Conquerors of the Barren Earth, which is illustrated by Ron Randall, who's a cartoonist that I used to run into in Portland sometimes. He did his series Trekker. That's really good.
That seemed like it's going to be really cool.
Yeah, a bunch of, I got Step by a Bloody Step, Aristocratic Extra-Able Time-Traveling Thieves. Just a bunch of like Quarterbin comics that I haven't read yet.
It's like fun weird stuff.
Yeah.
And then, so as far as comics go, I got, so manga. I got Loveless, which is like, if I understand what I read about it, it's basically like a boys love thing where one of them is like a cat boy and they use word magic, words to fight and stuff. So it's just like, oh, this is right up my alley.
I love swearing.
I love swearing. No, yeah.
Right, the your lawyer brain loves using words.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I'm very excited about it. I haven't actually gotten into it yet, but it sounds again right up my alley.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And awesome. Yeah, the art looks beautiful. It's very like delicate lines, which I like a lot. So yeah, looking forward to reading that for sure. And then I love Doom Patrol, so I got the first trade of Gerard Way and Nick Darrington's Doom Patrol, which I've read like one-off, like a few of the issues before, but never like the actual run. So figured it's time for that. And yeah, another one where the art is just like amazing. Nick Darrington's super talented.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
And actually, Tamara Bonvillain is on colors, and her colors are quite good as well. So that.
Oh, Farrell.
That's a Farrell. Yeah, it's a Farrell. It's a friend Farrell doing the cover.
Yeah, I'm interested in reading this because I actually James Harvey, who's a guy I'm friendly with, is did later work in it, so maybe in the second trade.
Oh, cool.
So I'm interested in seeing what his stuff in there is like.
Okay. But yeah, so I'm excited about that. And I've generally been like really into stories that deal with like the strange and absurd and like mental health stuff and addiction and all that.
Oh yeah, what are the things that you've been touching on for that? I know you mentioned Legion.
Yeah, so Legion is like one of my favorite TV shows ever. I've seen it like so many times. It's just one of my comfort shows that I'll just put on whenever I'm like, what do I want to have on? Oh, perfect. Let's do Legion because it's got that deals with mental health, addiction. It has amazing dance numbers. Aubrey Plaza is this crazy weird villain character that's also kind of not a villain later on. It's interesting. All of the actors are amazing. The soundtrack is stupid good. I've been listening to that just like on repeat pretty much. And it's interesting because it's originally like inspired by the character Legion from X-Men, from Marvel Comics.
Legion is Charles Xavier's son who has this kind of like long hair hung upside down look to him. He looks like he's been electrocuted.
Yeah, he looks like the lead singer of Static X, I think? Like weird like nu metal band from the early 2000s. Anyways, he kind of looks, he has, in the comics, yeah, very much like hair sticking straight up, and he's like an Omega level mutant, which means he's like Charles Xavier level power wise. He's telekinetic, telepathic, all the big mind powers. He's like Quentin Quire in that regard too.
Was he designed by Bill Sienkiewicz?
I think he was. Yes, I believe he was designed by Bill Sienkiewicz, and either first appears in the 80s New Mutants, which T'Pol, my favorite, or first appears in the X-Men books of that time, and then shortly thereafter entered into a huge arc in the New Mutants.
Okay. It's very fascinating when, I didn't know they probably weren't thinking of it this way, but I feel like Bill Sienkiewicz is one of those artists who no one else does what he does in really spectacular ways. So it's always fascinating when you're like, get him to design a character, and I'm sure they weren't thinking this way, and then have other people like that do not draw in such a like stylized, exciting way just have to come in and be like, I guess this hair works like this.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Who's the guy? Somebody did a design for Magic, a costume for Magic that was like super stylish. Chris
Bachalo.
Yeah, which his looks awesome, and I actually think that other artists do it pretty cool too. But it is both of these designs are so atypical of what anything real would look like that if you get anybody who's like drawing more realistic, it's like, what's going on there?
There's a lot of that in superhero comics in general, though. If you like, so much of the stuff doesn't, and maybe the movies have changed this a lot, but some of the stuff just kind of doesn't work in reality. It looks comic book, so if you do it a little too realistic, it just looks like someone in pajamas.
Yeah. And then so getting back to Legion, and so the character, the non-superhero name for Legion, his name is David. Is it David Carter? No, David.
He's not even David Xavier?
I forget. No, it's definitely not David Xavier, because it's like he's a complicated history. In the comic books, I forget exactly what the relationship is with Xavier. In the show, he doesn't even, does he not know he's adopted? I forget. But he is adopted, and he has no connection. They refer to Charles Xavier a bunch, but he isn't, he himself, if I remember correctly, never actually shows up. So they never say Charles Xavier or anything like that.
How do they refer to him if they don't say?
Your father, David's father.
Okay.
We'll say. And so in the comic books, David is generally he's frequently a villain. He's like, because not only does he have these omega level powers, he also has schizophrenia. And some of his they now explain it to be schizophrenia, and now that the comics are like, closer to reality. Realistically, he had multiple personality disorder and schizophrenia.
Okay. So like the character in Doom Patrol.
Yes, yeah. Similar to Crazy Jane and Doom Patrol, except with way more scary powers. Like way more like earth-breaking. They call him a reality-breaking mutant in the show, because he has the ability to break reality. Kind of like the Scarlet Witch a bit. So in the comic books, frequently he's a villain. He's like this like loose cannon that needs to be controlled and sedated and whatever. But in the show, he is not as long as you're taking the perspective of the mutants, he's not a villain. The humans very much see him as a villain in that, and there's a version of the mutant hunters that show up and try to take them out.
It's an interesting idea to take somebody who's just like, kind of just like almost a throwaway villain and humanize them.
Yeah, and make them the star of the show. And it follows his struggles, yeah.
I'm always joking about people putting all this extra weight on superhero characters. I'll be like, how does Captain Crunch deal with depression or whatever? Because when Batman stuff gets serious. But I do think that has brought us some really interesting stories with things like that. When you are forced to kind of, when someone reworks a character and puts it from their point of view and humanizes them. Because I definitely think the best villains are people where it's kind of, you can even if you don't agree with them, you can understand their motivations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that makes a much more interesting story when it's like not just like this doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so there's like a set of mutants that work together and help each other try to survive when this Division 3 government organization is trying to exterminate them. But it just gets super weird, like way weirder than it has any right to get. There's this one character later on that is like just a man, I think he's a man in like a kimono, or I guess a person, you don't ever see his face, a person in a kimono with a basket over their head, and they're psychic, and they communicate, or they have a device that allows them to telepathically communicate, I forget, with their mouth. And their mouth are these triplets, And initially, when you hear that in mutants, you think like the Kaku triplets,
Sure.
which is the Emma Frost people, or daughters, whatever, clones. But they look nothing like them. They look kind of like this lead singer from Foxy Shazam. They're like vaguely females with sort of bowl cut black hair and then giant mustaches, and they all speak as one brain. So they'll each one of them will be speaking during a sentence, and they're somehow augmented so that they're not susceptible to like David's powers or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. What I've seen of the show, it definitely has this kind of like prisoner. Because you mentioned the prisoner earlier.
Yeah.
Like surrealism to how they put stuff forward.
And so yeah, surrealism is totally that's my jam, my vibe.
What are you calling? Because you mentioned this is an aesthetic that you were kind of putting together lists for and everything recently. What were you calling it?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to come up with a name for it, but basically, like I like to talk in terms of, like if I have a shorthand label, instead of explaining like, I like blah 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 blah. You know, you can say like I like sci-fi, I like fantasy. So I'm trying to come up with this name for this essentially genre that exists that's like, again, dealing with like mental health and addiction, but in like really surreal kind of ways, basically things that are in the vein of like Alice in Wonderland. And then now Legion. Another example is this show on Netflix called Maniac. That's exceptional. It's got Jonah Hill and Emma Stone. That's another one that I'll just watch over and over and over and over again. And they're all ones that like are set in worlds that are not so insanely different from our own, but are definitely different from our own. Sort of almost in a 1Q84 kind of way, where they're like a little bit off.
Right, the Murakami book, the slight surrealist.
Yeah.
But kind of, because there's a level of once you get like too weird, you start to lose the thread sometimes.
Yeah, because when it's more real, it's like it allows me to more easily like spend time in that world that is like close to ours.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anyways, I'm watching a bunch of Legion. It's kind of like Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol show is also good. I watched that a bunch. Yeah, and you mentioned we just talked about Murakami. So
yeah.
I'll show some of the books you got.
I have a routine I've been doing lately where every morning I go out and I sit on our porch here and I read a chapter of this Murakami book on running. And I've been going to the gym regularly, but I hate running, so I just go there and lift weights and then read about running.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been using this It's Science with Dr. Radom Quarterbin comic too. So I got that, and then I also got a book of previously uncollected and unpublished Charles Bukowski poems, because Bukowski's one of my favorite poets. Mm-hmm. And this has been cool. A lot of it's a little weirder than his normal writing. There's one in here I really enjoy where they actually printed his rough that has things crossed out and things changed, and they printed the finished poem next to it.
Cool.
It's really cool to see. I've never seen processed poetry like that.
Before we get away from Bukowski, last time we were in LA, we went to Redondo Beach.
Oh yeah. Because I was telling you about how it's there's I have a CD of a live poetry reading by Bukowski, and he's like kind of poking fun at the people at Redondo Beach, so how tough they are.
Yeah, I just liked that. I just wanted to say that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Also from the kind of cat bookstore. What was that one called again?
Copper Cat.
Copper Cat.
They have a cat there, which is why it's called that.
There's a bookstore in Seattle where I grew up called Twice Old Tales that always has cats in there. It's very
cute.
Kind of a similar vibe. Yeah, I got this cool book of just like world photography, Earth's Fountains of Hell. And I got another book that's just in Spanish. It's a bunch of like mostly aerial photographs of all over the world. It's really, really beautiful. So one of the jobs I've been doing, or the main job I've been doing lately, is working for this video game company called Moonray. And I've been doing a weekly comic for them, or a chapter of it every week. And they're based on the video game off of the comic that I'm doing. And so I really want to find different environments to set the comic in, so the characters are constantly moving and you're seeing new locations. So I've just been getting a bunch of books. Like the reason I got these photography books, just to see a bunch of weird parts of the Earth that I can extrapolate on and make weird science fiction settings based off of it. So it's been fun. It feels like like even more than when I worked on like monthly profit comics. It feels more trial by fire of me being like, oh, part of it is I'm drawing this one. More profit, I was writing it and other people were drawing it. This one, other artists are coming in later, but I'm basically just doing every week, just kind of jumping in and being like, okay, here's the pages this week. And it's weird because I've set a certain amount of pages every week. I try to do 4 pages a week, which is kind of a lot for me and not a lot for some other people. But I'm kind of writing. I'm writing and lettering and drawing and coloring and everything. So oftentimes, I won't get too into the weeds of it, but it's been really good to kind of have to do that, because when I was working on Rain Like Hammers, my last book, I tried to do 4 pages a week, but if I had an idea that wasn't working, I would pull back and make sure it worked and everything. And it's something about having to do 4 pages a week is I make it work, and I'm like, if this isn't the best way to do this, I'm going to find a way to do it. And it's kind of, I'm creating different problems for myself than I'm used to, and I think that's really good for my brain. It's like it's like it feels a little bit like doing a 24-hour comic. Like problems need to be solved quicker, so I spend less time noodling around and just kind of see what works. And if it doesn't quite work, then we try to steer another direction next week.
Yeah, that's really exciting. So yeah, that's what you've been doing for a lot of the time, and it's been really cool. Just literally creating worlds, and like I get to watch and give some input, which is very fun.
Oh yeah, you've been a huge help. I've been bouncing a lot of story ideas off of Casey Jones, and I just finished lettering my friend Wyatt's Bolero book at Image, and that was really fun, and I learned a lot from that I've been taking on to the new project.
Yeah.
And I should mention the video game comic. It's been really cool because I'll draw a couple chapters of it, and then I'll see them make like 3D playable versions that you can run around in based off my drawings, which I've never encountered before.
Yeah. That's really exciting.
And it impresses my girlfriend when I showed her.
Yes, it does. And then I got a couple non-comic book books as well. So I got this is it's called Illustrated Lives, Vladimir Nabokov, and it's a biography of Nabokov, which I have. I mean, he writes so much autobiography, so I have already a couple of books of his autobiography writing, and then another biography of his. But this one, the reason I got it was because not only does it have like the writing and stuff, but it also has like pictures of him as a young man, and like pictures of like his family and just things that were impactful in his life. So you get more.
I feel like the higher quality an author, sometimes the lower chance of getting a bunch of photos like that. Like, because we're in the, I've been looking around for different comic artist biographies in bookstores lately, and I picked up one that was like a Jenna Jameson biography. It was basically a picture book. It wasn't a lot of text. But then I was reading your Nabokov in America book a while back. I remember they had a great account in there by someone who became friends with Nabokov later in his life and ran into him when Nabokov was butterfly hunting or something. Yeah. And he would just like he was 60 years old or something, and he would strip down and just have like a pair of khaki shorts and some boots on, and just be wandering around. And this guy saw this naked 60-year-old out there and came up to him and asked him like, oh, what kind of butterflies are you looking for? And he said that Nabokov was really harsh with him and just like basically quizzed him how much he knew about butterflies, and wouldn't really engage with him like a person until the guy answered his questions correctly, and then it's just like, oh, you're worth my time, I'll talk to you about butterflies.
Yeah. And speaking of, the page I had turned to was this him doing butterfly stuff. He freaking loved butterflies. Yeah, so anyways, I'm stoked about this book and learning more about my favorite author. That was cool. And then another, just obviously I have a fixation because I found this book that I've never even heard of this one before. It's Nabokov's Quartet, and
you see that author portrait on the back? That's fantastic.
He looks very like Alfred Hitchcock there. And it's, if I remember correctly, 4 short stories.
I was excited to read that one.
Yeah. Let's see. It says 2 previously published, one in the New Yorker, one in Esquire, and 2 unpublished stories. So that's exciting. It's like a very old copy too, which is cool.
I'm such a snob about like book presentation. I was thinking about a bunch of the newer editions of things and how like this is such a nice cover, and it's like maybe it's just that it helps that it's aged a little bit, but I'm like, why can't we have nice things anymore?
But yeah, it's a good one. And
Any big epiphanies on living in Vegas for more than half a year?
I love it. I love our people here. Y'all will get to meet them as time goes on because we're gonna have them on here and on our house channel. Big epiphanies. It's a unique place. Feels like living on Mars or something. So we call it the Mars base frequently. What else? The strip is cool, but there's so much more. And you don't even hardly like the strip. I like the strip pretty okay. I think it's a fun, weird place to go to. But there's so much more to the city than just the strip.
It's like going to a mall Target.
I definitely don't see it that way because there's like there's like weird stuff that doesn't exist anywhere else. Like one of my favorite things is called the Chandelier, which is a 3-story bar that is literally a chandelier. You're literally inside of a chandelier, and there's this Alice in Wonderland themed drink that comes with a little ticket that says "Eat Me" on it, and it's edible, and just like
beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah. And then another thing in that, this is in the Cosmopolitan, which is my favorite of the casinos.
It is the best of the casinos.
Yes, it is exceptional. They've got a restaurant in there called Secret Pizza, which is the best pizza I've ever had, and I lived in New York. So...
I mean, my contentious opinion is I don't think New York is the best pizza.
That's fine. But it's widely regarded as having very good pizza.
I like the pizza in Chicago.
I also like the pizza in Chicago, but Secret Pizza for me is still it's the best. And it's called Secret Pizza because there actually is no name to the place. There's no sign. It's literally just this like weird hallway that you go down, and then there's like a pizza parlor back there. That feels very like East Coast pizza parlor, which is cool, but is somehow better. And you can just get slices, which is also it's not super common in Vegas. There's not as much like the walking around culture, so. That's one place where you can get them. There's also a food cart section in the Cosmo, which has at least one food truck from Portland, and then other great stuff. They've got what's the dessert place that we go to all the time there? It's right next to Momo. Oh, so Momofuku's in there too, which is awesome. The place that I'm thinking of, the dessert place that's right next door, they were famous for their crack pie.
Which they had to change the name of at some point.
They did.
Because they weren't serving real crack with it.
Oh yeah, they weren't.
False advertising.
I forget what that place is called, but it's really good.
Yeah, I mean, that's the better of the casinos. I think there's something kind of... And that one has a really cool... Weirdly enough, my favorite part of it is the lobby.
Yeah, the lobby's awesome.
They have these pillars that they have like TV screens, and they'll make them like a bookshelf, and the books will kind of glow and disappear slowly.
Yeah.
And there's a bar next to that that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. The Vesper.
Yeah, so there's things in Vegas. There's something about, like, I really like the Strip from a distance. There's a part near our neighborhood where you kind of wander out to the middle of the desert, and you can see the Strip, and I often think about how interesting it is that, like, you know, every celebrity since Elvis and before on has probably been in that tiny little spot of downtown that you can look at.
Mm-hmm.
And it has its the Luxor has the beam of light that shoots up in the sky and looks really, really cool from a distance. And I like a lot of the kind of outskirt Vegas stuff that we've encountered.
Yeah. We found this really amazing burger place called Fuku Burger, and it's anime themed, but like kind of hentai themed at the same time. Like all their stickers are very like
yeah. Oh, and speaking of, we went to the Shota Sushi.
Oh my god. Yeah, that is nuts. It's literally called Mr. Shota sushi. I can't explain what that is on YouTube, but just look it up. Look up what Shota means.
Don't.
Or don't, yeah, if you don't want to put on a list, I guess. But it's SHOTA.
And that one's very... It's interesting because you go in, they have this giant Samurai Champloo mural that's really cool, and a Naruto mural. So I feel like Samurai Champloo is a little deceptive because it's mostly like Naruto and One Piece and stuff for like kids, basically.
It's all Shonen Jump stuff, and then there's the good, like you said, Samurai Champloo, which is one of my favorite animes. But the fact that it's Mr. Shota and has all the shonen anime in there is like very worrying.
Yeah, and I'm generally, like, we had to check it out, but I'm generally not a fan of novelty sushi. It's just like, here's some raw fish, let's have fun with it. And I'm always like, maybe not.
Yeah.
Like, bring me a very serious Japanese man to hand it to me.
And so fortunately, that was just, like you said, a novelty. It's not in our part of town. It was a drive away. So that's a one and done. We don't have to go back there. But there are two quite good sushi places in our neighborhood. One is Hiroba Sushi, which we go to a bunch, but we stay up a lot later than I think a lot of folks, so sometimes where it's dinner time for us and Hiroba is closed, so we go to this other sushi place, which I honestly can't even remember the name of. I just know where it is.
Pretty decent sushi place, open till 3 in the morning.
Yeah, open till 3 in the morning. That's another thing I love about this city. There's like stuff's open like all the time. Which is awesome. I mean, not everything, obviously, because I just said Hiroba closes at 10, but like, if you want sushi and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, you can still get fresh made sushi 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, what?
Yeah, it did really hit a big contrast to me when we visited LA last time, because there was such a feeling of like, oh, this is what a city's like again. And I'd like go into a cafe and like walk around, and it just felt very different from this kind of like Vegas feels much more like a manufactured city that didn't evolve naturally.
Yeah, it's an artificial city. Like, no question about that for sure, which is one of the things that I love about it, because it's so weirdly unique. Like what other examples? Like Brasilia is a city that's like super artificial. It's just true. It's one of is it the capital? It's either the capital of Brazil or like a government hub of Brazil that's literally just like in the middle of the rainforest, and it's not made for humans essentially. It's very strange. But that's one, and then like...
Yeah, rich people hunt the poor, right?
Kind of. Well, that actually is a good bridge to the next one, because another like artificial city that I can think of is like in the Emirates, like Dubai.
Oh,
like
sure. That one's bizarre.
Yeah. We at least have our own like sewage systems. I found out recently that the super, super tall...
There's no bathrooms
Burj Khalifa. No, there's bathrooms, but there's no plumbing. I mean, there's no outward plumbing system. Literally every day they have to bring, they're called the poop trucks. All of the human waste that gets generated in there is put into these trucks and trucked away somewhere else.
Okay. Imagine if you're doing some kind of giant Dubai heist that unfortunately you're going to have to involve poop trucks.
Yeah.
I met someone, I was doing a comic signing years ago, and I met people from Dubai, and because all I knew about it was, I've looked more into it now, it's a weird place, but all I knew about the time was the Mission Impossible movie, so I just talked about Mission Impossible like a crazy person for 20 minutes. They're like, yeah, no, it's not really like the Tom Cruise movie. And I was like, anyway, so in Mission Impossible 6.
That actually is an apropos segue into the next thing, though. So we've been, as kind of, not really as a house, I guess, not everybody's participating in this, but myself, Brandon, and our roommate Kate have been binging 24, which is so fun. Like, I'm not gonna say it's like,
It's the best show.
Critically, like I would say like Legion is objectively like exceptional like art. Like, it's super, super good. I wouldn't say that 24 is exceptional art, but it is very fun. I'm very intrigued about Jack Bauer and his sex baby daughter.
I have lured so many humans into watching 24. I talk about in my last comic, Rain Like Hammers, the afterword I talk about 24. But it requires, or maybe we should do a specific video on this, but it requires to be watched a very specific way. Which we haven't even gone full. Like, my ideal way to watch 24 is you watch a season in 24 hours. Oof. And you have to keep a list of all of the different murders, first and foremost. The perimeter is established, The Moles. This one we actually have a list that is Crimes Against Humanity, which currently has 2 on it.
Yeah.
Because at one point he shoots a pedophile in the chest and then cuts his head off with a hacksaw.
That he does.
Very, very quick succession, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's like I keep, because so we live in a house with like I'm the only dude in the house and it's a bunch of women, and so I'm always sneaking off and like watching like what I call dad shows, and I'll be like, oh, Jack Reacher, it's 8 in the morning and no one else is awake, time to watch Jack Reacher and Jack Ryan and whatever, and I was trying that with 24 because I was basically just like, no one else needs to see this, and then sweet Kate Zoha has like decided that she loves she just loves murder, and so she started watching it with me, and I did not expect it, and now it's kind of turned into a thing where at least 3 of us sit down every night and try to watch a couple episodes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I did not expect to have like a young pretty lady or several young pretty ladies just be like, can we please watch more Kiefer Sutherland 24?
It's awesome. Yo, it's awesome.
It just goes back to the thing that I keep talking about where I feel like my life in Vegas is oftentimes like if me at 15 was told I had to come up with what my life would be like at 45, and I just came up with this ridiculous, like, you live in this big house in the desert with a bunch of babes, and now I'm actually forced to live it out, and it's just like I'm just trying to read poetry in the bathtub and my Garfield comics. Leave me alone, guys. Can I watch 24?
You're ridiculous. You love our little tribe.
That is nice. I put up with you. My genius girlfriend.
But yeah, I think that's the big takeaway, is that we do have a wonderful little tribe. Most of our tribe lives in our house, but we have lots of other friends out, scattered throughout Vegas. And yeah, it's really cool seeing each other, like, just help each other out in whatever way that that we might need help, whether that's work or just relocating or we just had a friend move here actually from Austin, which is super exciting. We just got her into her new place today, and
she introduced me to Chainsaw Man.
Oh, that's who showed you Chainsaw Man?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Which is, way better than I thought it was going to be, by the way. I started reading that, and it's really good.
Yeah. Something about Chainsaw Man that I've yet to really experience myself, but I believe it very much because it's been really fun to read, is people have been talking about how it's almost like making fun of shonen manga. Because I'm really, like, not the biggest fan of shonen, like modern shonen manga at this point, and I probably talk about it endlessly, but it's really nice to read something, and just, like, structurally it's so good that I found myself, like 20 pages in, I was like making notes in my sketchbook how they laid out scenes, because it was so, like, just technically impressive.
Yeah, super good. It's been funny. I guess they just ended, like, the run of comics ended for Chainsaw Man, so we've been out, like, looking for book number 2, and have been totally unlucky. Like, we've not gotten to any store that has book number 2. They almost always either have like 6, 7, 8, or like 9, 10, 11, or whatever, later books. But we'll get the number 2 eventually. Speaking of anime, got this awesome Astolfo pillow, which goes like that and that.
So you're a pervert, you say?
Yes, I'm a pervert. Astolfo's my anime waifu.
There's a thing I was wondering about the other day. Like, sometimes I see drawings of characters with the fang, and I was always used to the fang in 80s anime, just the single mouth fang. But lately I see drawings where people will draw it without a line disconnected, so it looks like a skin tag on the mouth, but it's still cute, and it's one of those weird things that it doesn't have really an allegory for reality.
No. Very strange, but very fun. Watching a bunch of anime too, watching ReZero, that I've liked that a lot. That's the one with Rem and Ram and all that. We watched Seraph of the End together. That was pretty fun.
Seraph of the End was really fascinating because it had some really brilliant ideas and some really cool artwork in a lot of places, but it was interspliced with some very generic, boring stuff every once in a while.
Yes.
So it was confusing.
It was inconsistent.
Because I feel like that's generally been a lot of my reaction to modern, not to be a giant snob, but I feel like modern anime, a lot of times, a lot of it is a lot of the best stuff I've encountered is like these really brilliant moments and then boring anime tropes, which I guess a lot of those things is what people expect from anime, and I kind of want something new always.
Yeah, there's a lot of sort of generic stuff out there, but thankfully there's so much out there that there continues to be good stuff, which is exciting.
What was the one with the like spider tanks we were watching that was interesting?
86?
86, yeah.
Yeah, we started watching 86. That seemed pretty cool.
Yeah, it almost reminded me a little bit of like the Gray Digital Target stuff, where it's about these people fighting a war that are basically not considered human because they're not part of this like specific race of people that are citizens of a country. Basically, every other race is considered not human and disposable to fight off these kind of Terminator AI robots.
Yeah. So yeah, that's been cool. What else have I been watching? I've been playing a bunch of Halo.
Watching Halo. Shoot.
Got me to get back to that.
Yeah. Sue's a big Halo aficionado.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's been cool to like wax poetic about lore with her. It's fresher for her because she did like a deep dive like quite recently. But like in our conversations, I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that from like the Fall of Reach, because like I used to like play Halo 1, 2, and 3 like crazy, like so competitively actually. I won some stuff playing Halo.
Officially.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And I like read the books and all this, and like just freaking loved Halo. But then after 3 came out, or when 3 was out, that's sort of when it ended for me. And there was like 4 and 5 and Infinite now and all this, and I don't know, I just felt like 1, 2, and 3 was like, at the time I was like, that's the story, it's over now. I don't play more after that. But thankfully Sue has got me to come back and give it a chance. Finished Halo 4 recently. Actually, it was super good. I think that maybe there are some problems with it, but like I was definitely surprised with how much I liked it. I'm playing 5 right now, and I think there are moments of like, oh, this is really cool, or like, this thing's really interesting or cool. This is a neat little tidbit. But overall, it's like, to me, very inconsistent, and feels to me more like Halo 4 ODST than like an actual other Halo game. And I think if it had just had that simple rebranding twist, I think I would have been more accepting of it. But as it is, I'm like, whatever. We'll just get through it in order to get to Halo Infinite and then go from there.
Halo Infinite doesn't end though. It's been really interesting about watching you play Halo. It's been really interesting to me as I never had any interaction with it, and there's so much stuff that I didn't realize came from that. Like it's done a blow to my feelings about the newest Doom game, because I'm a big fan of the original Doom games and up to Doom 3, and then they did this new, very fancy Doom game, and I thought it's really influenced by the artist Wayne Douglas Barlow, whose work I like a lot, and he didn't work on it, which is really confusing to me because it looks just like his art in a lot of ways. And then the other part, it's basically like that mixed with Halo, so part of me is a little bit just like, so you guys didn't come up with anything new? It's just these two things sandwiched together, and it's still a fun game and everything, but it's a little disappointing. And then we've been watching the Doom TV show, the Halo TV show, and it has some good moments in it, but it stylistically is just kind of Star Wars in a lot of ways, as much as it has really beautiful things where the costumes are really cool, and it's just the aesthetic is like, it's quality, but it's not stylized in any particular direction. And it was interesting, even watching one of the Halo games, is I felt like they were color coding things in a way that added that style to it.
Color coding things?
Yeah, you're playing one of the things where you're running down a hallway and everything was like had a specific lighting on it that made it feel just not like not like Star Wars.
Oh yeah. In the earlier, so not in Halo 5 they get away from this, but in the earlier games the Forerunner structures are like very silver, metallic, super shiny and bright, and all this that feels very Halo. And yeah, I think the stylizations, the designs and everything in the video games, so good. Like, beautiful world building. I do see what you're talking about in some of the parts of the TV show where it's like, not great. I would say that mostly when they're with the UNSC stuff, so like with the military government people, then the designs are better. When they're with like the rabble, essentially, I think the designs tend to sort of be a little bit more generic, which is unfortunate. And then there's this whole subplot in the show about this, like, just horrible little child that I just want her. Like, there's a well that she finds at one point, and I was joking with my friend that I now have a headcanon where this character, Kwanha, gets pushed down the well and becomes Samara from The Ring, because that would be a good resolution for her storyline.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it is interesting. I think that's one of the things that makes me kind of question the quality of the show a lot. As I was watching in that storyline, I was like, are we supposed to hate this character? Because I don't feel like the creators of the show, they're making her do things that are just objectively like make the character unlikable and uninteresting, but then they're still following her in a way that where it's almost like we're expected to care.
Yeah,
that was confusing.
I think we're definitely expected to care. Yeah, I just relish the episodes where she's either not in it or hardly in it.
That's a weird thing. It reminds me of Annie in the Robotech Mosapida series.
Oh yeah, she sucks. Or yeah, like most of the time when you bring like just obnoxious children into sci-fi, it doesn't work out super well. Like I know you, I think maybe disagree because you were his age when this happened, but I really hated Will Wheaton's character in Star Trek Next Generation.
Oh no, you're supposed to hate Will Wheaton's character in Next Generation. Yeah, but those at least I felt like they kind of knew he sucked a little bit, because they make him much more. I mean, they kind of overcorrect with Wesley Crusher, but it would just always be like he like just comes in and is just like fucking, sorry for the swears, he comes in and is just duck butting around the bridge and is just like not supposed to be on there, and they'll be like, oh my god, the Starfleet's about to be destroyed by the Klingons, and he'll be like, Captain, look at my new pen, and they'll be like, get this child off the bridge.
Yeah.
So that part was, it's funny, I thought you were going to say, because I was thinking all these examples of like great kid characters, like Terminator 2, the kids in that are great.
Oh, I don't remember the kid. I mean, I know John, obviously.
Yeah, like John Connor and his friend with like because he has the long hair and the shave in the back, and his friend's got the short hair and the long in the back. Oh. It's like they've cut a haircut in half and each gotten half of it. And then like in Aliens, Newt is excellent.
Yeah, Newt's really cool. That's true.
There's examples of like kids, but I guess they don't really act like kids in those things. They act like cool. I mean,
they act how like, well, now I feel stupid saying this because you just said cool, but they act like not morons, you know? Like they're like self-aware a bit of like, oh, this is a dangerous situation. I need to not be a little snot. And like, that's how, again, not to sound like, whatever. That's how I was as a kid, and it drove me nuts when I would interact with kids who were like, like,
yeah, you're hyper like competent.
I guess, whatever. I don't know. It just drives me nuts to see like, I guess.
Well, the Halo character is interesting because uninteresting, I should say, because they set up this scenario where basically Earth is in danger of being destroyed, and
i.e. humans, all of humanity in danger of being destroyed.
Humanity is about to be wiped out, and then she's just like really obsessed with basically rebelling against the human government that's trying to save humanity.
Yes.
And it just basically is like, read the room, like calm down a little bit. This is not the time to mess with the people that are trying to save your species.
Like her father, who is the general of the rebellion on her planet, like is cut down right in front of her by the Covenant, by the aliens. And then she's like, after that battle, she is still like, well, screw the people who saved her, literally, from the aliens. We need to kick them off this planet. Like, you know, not work together for the survival of the human race. That would be silly. No, we need to make sure that we have anarchy, I guess. She doesn't really propose like a system of rule or government. It's just like F the UNSC.
I'd be really fascinated to talk to the writers of the show and be like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
What's one of this character? Do you know this character sucks? Is this what we're doing? Or do you hate the viewers? You're just like, okay, here's some fun spaceship battle stuff, but what if we took 50 minutes every episode and we just vampired the life force out of the viewers? Wouldn't that be cool?
Wouldn't that be cool? But I do want to touch on the things that I do like about that show, which include the space battles, like the really cool, like just choreographed fights with like Master Chief and elites and all this stuff. Like I always wanted something like that, and it's just really cool to see that come into fruition. Also, getting to know the other Spartans is really cool. Kai is like my just hero.
Her character, I think, is the best part of the show.
Yes, oh my god, she's awesome. She's a Spartan, so she's a super soldier, just like Master Chief. And her and Master Chief take out this like basically like implant in the bottom of their spine. Inhibitor. Yeah, it inhibits emotions for them because in a combat situation, emotions can be deadly. And their whole purpose is to be like, just manufacture killing machines. But they take this out against the orders of their superiors, and then they start to develop like emotionally and like become their own selves, their own persons, instead of just these cold killing machines. And Kai like puts this like streak of purple or of pink in her hair from gun oil, which is like, oh my god, that's so cool, and it definitely has inspired me. I think I might do that. We'll see.
Gun oil is not pink.
Generally, it's not. So it was like funny that they did that, but I mean, whatever. It's sci-fi. It could be whatever they want it to be. And yeah, she's awesome. Dr. Halsey is like weirdly, I feel like more evil than she is in the games in the show. Although that I guess is up to debate.
Right, I knew her because she was in that David Duchovny Californication. So whenever she does something evil, I'm just like, she's just reacting to the trauma of seeing David Duchovny's penis.
And speaking of David Duchovny, we watched a bunch of X-Files recently too. That was very fun. I'd like to watch some more of that. That show has its problems, but has some good stuff in there. So yeah, I agree. I think it is slowly adjusting and healing, and we're creating this new life. And yeah, I'm really thankful for where we're at and what we've got going on here. Hopefully we'll go visit our friends and family elsewhere soon. But right now it definitely feels like home here, which is nice. But yeah, anything else you want to tell the world?
I think that's it. I think things have been, it's good to kind of have a video where we're like, hey, this is where we're at, but our boring little lives that are hopefully gonna turn into new and exciting things.
Bite your tongue. Boring little lives. We never have boring lives.
I enjoy my boredom. Don't you take this from me?
Well, if you're bored, that's one of us. Definitely not me. I love our weird life that we have. But yeah. Were you gonna say something?
I was not.
Okay. Well, on that note, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, or if you got something out of this video, please click that like button and subscribe. And until next time.